What's going on, everyone? Today I wanted to discuss post-patch guns in the Assault class that I've been having success with as of late. Of course, as some of you probably know, I was late to get the update and haven't tried all the guns and all of the attachments for them yet, so I can't discuss every gun, but I can at least give you information about guns I've had success with. I'll also give the breakdown of the setups on each gun and break them down one by one in pros and cons. The first thing I'm going to do is basically because the update changed the behavior and recoil patterns of every gun in the latest patch. I'll first break down each individual attachment and the pros and cons of each when putting them to your gun. The foregrip, which now gives an aiming down the sights penalty, which I'm not exactly sure why it does. Maybe just because DICE wanted to change the fact that everyone uses the foregrip instead of the bipod. Not sure. I'm not really sure the logic behind it. Basically, it does give an aiming down the sights penalty now. However, it does help to reduce muzzle drift when firing, so of course, it's still useful. Next up is the flash suppressor. To be blunt, it was completely useless in the pre-patch version of Battlefield 3, but it received a significant buff in the latest patch. It reduces muzzle climb for guns now. This is highly beneficial for high fire rate guns such as the F2000 or the AEK 971, and it makes muzzle climb for a slower rate fire guns almost non-existent. The suppressor. It obviously makes you more stealthy, but it also affects longer range damage because you fire lower velocity rounds. The pluses to it are obvious. You won't appear on the minimap and you'll be harder to detect from the enemy, especially when flanking. A little side point too, it also gives a slight accuracy bonus when it's attached. Next up is the heavy barrel, and it basically provides an aiming down the sight accuracy bonus and makes your gun's range increase as well. Of course, there's a negative to it though. It does increase muzzle climb, especially on higher fire rate guns. Next up's the bipod, which obvious is common sense. When deployed, you have little to no recoil, but of course you're stationary and can't really move around. The laser sight, just like in the pre-update footage, or the pre-update game, I should say, it adds an accuracy bonus when firing from the hip. It always has. I'm just being thorough pointing it out. When paired with the foregrip, which reduces muzzle drift, you can tip fire all day. This one's best used for PDWs when put in with the Assault class, but since I don't often use those guns, you probably won't see any examples in the video in the background. To sum up, all but the laser sight reduce hip fire accuracy, so remember that if you're running and gutting with any guns not equipped with a laser sight. The first gun I've had success with is the M16A3, and it's been the most consistent gun that I've used so far. I typically use the red dot sight, the foregrip, and the heavy barrel with it. The sight you use is obviously preference, but I've always preferred the red dot. It isn't obstructing over longer ranges and is versatile over range and different circumstances. Since the flash suppressor now reduces muzzle climb, it's of good use if you'd like to manage muzzle climb. I use the heavy barrel the most for this gun because I find the heavy barrel now provides an aimed accuracy bonus, and if you can learn to manage the very little muzzle climb without the flash suppressor, you get the added benefit of an aimed accuracy bonus on top of a powerful medium range gun. Overall, I found the M16A3 to be the most consistent over medium and short range, and even in hip fire encounters without the laser sight. It's basically my gun of choice of the ones I've tried so far on the update. Next up, for higher fire rate guns such as the F2000 or the AEK 971, the foregrip reduces muzzle drift and the flash suppressor reduces muzzle climb. They help add controllability to a gun that's not exactly a breeze to control otherwise now. The patch definitely changed the recoil pattern of the F2000 and it feels a lot different. It wasn't changed enough for me to dislike it though. I enjoy the red dot sight, the foregrip, and the flash suppressor for the F2000. The foregrip and heavy barrel also work well for medium range encounters to neutralize each other's plus-minus aiming down the sight accuracy, so I tend to choose the flash suppressor or heavy barrel, but it completely depends on the map and the expected ranges of encounters that I expect per map. The AN-94 and the KH-2002 are two burst fire guns that I found to be very reliable. I thoroughly enjoy using both of these guns. The AN-94 fires a 2-round burst, so there's very little recoil to worry about. Just attach a red dot sight, the foregrip, and a heavy barrel, and you're ready to go. There's no need for a flash suppressor because a burst fire gun will have very manageable recoil as it is. The disadvantage, of course, to these burst fire guns is, of course, long range and or surprise encounters where, say, you turn a corridor and a guy just happens to pop up. You don't really need the flash suppressor unless you... The flash suppressor's main bonus for these guns would basically be just to reduce your signature when you fire. With regard to actually affecting muzzle climb, you don't really need it because, like I said earlier, burst fire guns don't really affect muzzle climb very much. With all of these guns above, you can equip a suppressor for stealth flanks, but the disadvantage is that for long-range encounters, the silencer equipped makes the rounds less damaging. Also, because the heavy barrel is not equipped, the aiming down the sight penalty will become a factor if the foregrip's attached. Okay, now that I've discussed the guns, their breakdowns, the attachments, and their purposes on the guns, what I wanted to briefly discuss to sort of close out this commentary here is the attachments that I would and equipment that I'd use. Most of the time I use the med pack, especially when I'm traveling in a larger or in a smaller close quarters map like Operation Metro to heal my teammates. But as you'll see here, and you've seen earlier in the video, I did use the M320, and yes, I'm horribly against tubing. I think it's cheap because, and you can quote this, explosives are for people that can't aim. I do think there is a very, very intricate and intelligent purpose for them in Battlefield, and that is to break down the cover that the enemy has, or maybe to take out a bunch of them if you can't regularly see them. In an earlier clip, you saw me tube down the corridor when we were in Sign Crossing toward A flag, and that's because you can't see those guys, and to get around them, they know you're coming. So tubing was appropriate. It's appropriate in certain circumstances, and that's where I think it comes into play. The sidearm that I use the most is the M93 Rafika. I found it to be far more consistent than the G18 in the post-update Battlefield. Might be alone in that, but that's how I feel about it. That's what I tend to use the most. And I almost always use squad suppression or squad cover when I choose this particular layout for assault. Just because most of the time I always have a friend or someone that always runs support, so there's my ammo taken care of. But if you feel you run out of ammo a lot and you can't have anyone to help you out, then I'd suggest to use squad ammo. Helps you out a lot. So in conclusion, the gun you choose and the attachments that you put on your gun should influence your style of play. Long-range encounters with a high fire rate gun equipped with a silencer will be rather frustrating against someone with a foregrip and heavy barrel, whereas an accurate burst fire gun with a heavy barrel won't be too pleasant in regular close range or surprise encounters. Basically, in short, these are the guns and attachments that I've found that work for me so far in the update. Of course, I haven't tried all of the guns, and I'll probably make a further update video if I try more guns and have success with them. So I'm still basically trying to find out what's the best setup with regard to attachments and gun choice for me. But I hope this helps those out that are struggling to find a good weapon now that the game has changed. Next up, I'll break down the engineering class guns and those I've found preferable for that class. So basically, thanks for watching.